be helpful. Good evening, members of the Council and members of the public. Welcome to this meeting. Please be seated. I'd like to remind everyone this meeting is being recorded, streamed live on our website. Please can members also remember to speak directly into their microphones and to switch them on before speaking. I have also been asked at meetings of the Council to make a standard evacuation announcement. Please note that in case of an emergency, a bell will ring continuously. If this occurs, please leave the Council chamber at once, taking your personal belongings with you. Follow the green fire exit signs to leave the Civic Centre on Duke Street via the stairs, which are located near to the end of the corridor adjoining this chamber. Lifts should not be used. Please gather by the War Memorial immediately outside the Civic Centre, and if and when it's safe to return to the building, an announcement will be made. You should not return to the building until told it is safe to do so. Anyone attending this meeting is entitled to film, but I should point out that only councillors, officers and anyone sitting around these tables may be filmed. Members of the public should not be filmed, so please ensure that cameras are pointed only in this direction. Please would you silence or switch off your mobile phones whilst the meeting is taking place. I'd like to remind members there are 3 styles of voting that can be used tonight. These are a show of hands, a voting by assent or a recorded vote, which would have to be requested by 10 members. I would also like to remind members that those moving an item out of business have 10 minutes and a right to reply for 5 minutes. Those seconding items have 5 minutes and can reserve their right to speak to before the mover of the motion has the final say. All other councillors can only speak once for 5 minutes per item. This must be before I invite the seconder or mover to speak at the end. Agenda item 1, apologies for absence. I've received apologies for absence for this meeting from Councillors Grundy, Chambers, Scott and Bugby. Are there any others to report?
Councillors Wilson and Tron.
Oh yes, thank you very much. And item 2, Mayor's announcements. First of all, thank you very much for all the donations to the Food Bank Christmas Appeal. I was really surprised when I had a look just now. There's a lovely trolley full of stuff to take down, so that's really kind of you. Thank you. I have been delighted to introduce at the Remembrance Service on the 12th of November the very first Mayor of Chelmsford's cadet, Air Cadet Sergeant Woolwich. She joined me for the service and she will be joining me for other civic events, and I hope going forward that we will be rotating cadets, which is a lovely thing to do that other authorities do, so I'm pleased about that. My fundraising committee, as it's the YMCA, obviously they're called the Village People, are busy organising events currently. Local businesses are advertising on Chelmsford Community Radio for the Mayor's Advent Calendar. We open 1 window a day and that's going really well. There's a collection at the theatre after the panto performances. Oh yes, there is. Forthcoming events include the Christmas event, craft table at Highlands, which will be lovely. We have a quiz night coming up, cheap as chips after Christmas because nobody will have any money. The Mayor's Variety Show at the Studio Theatre will be in February. Caprice are doing a concert for us. New City Voices are doing a concert for us. There will be a Mother's Day tea, a sponsored moustache run, again with the YMCA connotation, and a grand ball in April. All details of those will be emailed nearer the time. Thank you for supporting any events to benefit at YMCA Essex. I hope you'll all be joining me, or as many as possible, for the Civic Carol service at the Cathedral on Friday, the 15th of December at 7. Thank you very much. Let's move on to agenda item 3, which is declaration of interest. Members will be aware of the need to declare any interest they have in the business of this meeting, either now or when we come to the item. Does anyone wish to declare any interest at this point? Okay. Agenda item 4, minutes. The minutes of the meeting on the 25th of July have been distributed. Are you happy to accept them as a correct record? In that case, the minutes are approved. Thank you. Agenda item 5, public questions. Item 5 is public questions. Any member of the public, after giving their name and address, may ask a question on which the council has powers or duties or which affects the city. Questions must not exceed 2 minutes, and the total period allowed for question time under the council's rules of procedure is 30 minutes. There is not an opportunity for supplementary questions. We have not had any questions submitted by the public, so we'll move on to the next item of business. Agenda item 6 is the Cabinet question time. Agenda item 6, at the time of the deadline of noon on Monday, 2 questions had been submitted for Cabinet members. There is a right of reply to ask a supplementary question or comment, which, if exercised, also applies to the Cabinet member. The first is from Councillor Massey, and I'll ask Councillor Moore to respond to it. The second is from Councillor Sullivan, and I'll ask Councillor Foster to respond to it. If any of the Cabinet members to whom questions are being put are not present, Councillor Robinson will respond. So can I ask Councillor Massey for his question, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We welcome the continued commitment to tree planting by the City by volunteers at Creekview Green. Unfortunately, the City Council chose not to advise local ward members that the planting was planned, meaning we were unable to respond to residents' questions and concerns. Would the Cabinet member for Greener Chelmsford please consider notifying ward members when future planting is being planned?
Thank you. Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Massey. Your question has prompted me to reflect on all of the tree planting and other activities that we have undertaken since 2020, actually late 2019. When we first declared a climate and ecological emergency, and I am very happy to hear that you welcome this administration's commitment to tree planting. I'm very proud to serve as a councillor, and I'm even more so that I was able to put forward and propose the motion to declare the ecological emergency back in 2019, over which you presided, Councillor Massey, when you were in the position of mayor. Planting trees, as we know, helps to create, restore and connect habitat, and that is fundamental to reversing the catastrophic biodiversity loss that we are witnessing. It's also a key element of our climate and ecological emergency action plan. Trees will also play a vital role in flood alleviation in Southwood and Ferrers, and especially in low-lying areas, by slowing down the flow of rainwater, absorbing rainwater and reducing erosion. So an additional area of tree and woodland planting within 2 small parcels of land has recently been created at Compass Gardens in Southwood and Ferrers. And these new areas are some distance away from existing woodland planting to the north, as well as football pitches, and they're also part shielded by the play area and the outdoor gym. These will extend and connect the emerging woodland habitat that Councillor Massey mentions at Creekview Green, to help support even more vital pollinating insects, birds and small mammals. Vitally, this area is located where the land drains end for the play area and the outdoor gym, and are on land sloping towards Ferrers Road. This part of Compass Gardens is frequently waterlogged in autumn, winter and early spring, and is subject to some localised flooding, which often makes the area inaccessible. So, to improve the natural drainage of the area, further tree planting has been planned in this location. That's part of a wider investment in the park by City Council, particularly in Compass Gardens, and is designed to improve the local environment as part of our ongoing work to mitigate the climate and ecological emergency. The fencing work and the planting of the larger feathered trees was carried out by City Council staff 420 smaller woodland whips and 700 wildflower plugs were, I am very happy to say, planted by community volunteers. This activity was published in the usual way, including on the Parks notice board, by volunteer mail-out, and was shared with Southwood and Ferrers Town Council. The community session took place on the 16th of November, and it's part of our rolling programme of conservation volunteering, which takes place on 44 weeks of the year. To participate in the programme, residents can simply sign up to projects that are of interest to them, and for anyone who is watching or listening in, you can see the Love Your Chelmsford website for more details on how to be part of this important work. So, Councillor Massey, in terms of specific communication regarding this project, as for any other sessions in South Woodham, posters are displayed in the notice board and poster case at the entrance to the Compass Gardens car park, also at Franklin Fields Local Nature Reserve. The town clerk was also sent an email regarding the volunteering opportunity. That's routine for all of South Woodham's sessions, but no further communication was made prior to the planting, specifically to ward members. After discussion with Paul Van Damme, he has confirmed that the council will ensure that in future all local ward members are advised well in advance, so you can inform any people who are interested or are concerned by the appearance of a change in ground or fencing appearing. And members, I hope, will also find time to volunteer themselves whenever possible in future. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Massey, did you want to? Oh,
Thank you.
okay. Councillor Sullivan.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll start. The winter weather has arrived, I'm sure we'll notice that, with a record November cold snap and forecasts of more to come. But this is especially challenging for the rough sleepers on the streets of Chelmsford. The recent Conservative central government announcement says it has allocated £148.4 million to 46 local authorities, housing providers and charities as part of the single homelessness accommodation programme, aimed to build or buy 1,230 homes, supporting the most vulnerable in our society and helping them off the streets for good. My question to the Cabinet Member is, has Chelmsford Council applied for this funding?
Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. Chelmsford City Council was one of only 2 local housing authorities in Essex eligible to apply for SHAP funding on behalf of any partner who is able and willing to provide additional supported accommodation for those at risk of rough sleeping. So a strategic gap analysis was undertaken earlier this year, working closely with Essex County Council, CHP and other partners. We're really, it's one of the things that we're really proud of, that no one needs to sleep rough in Chelmsford, and every rough sleeper is offered proper accommodation. They may not retain it, they may refuse it, but all are offered it. And one of the first things we did on taking office in 2019 was to convene a roundtable meeting of Chelmsford agencies involved in supporting homeless people to agree some new ways forward, and that group continues on today. We're really pleased that the government listened to the requests from local councils and contributed funding to some of these single homelessness schemes. Over the last 3 years, we've been able to provide proper housing and wraparound support to over 100 people who've been sleeping rough. What this proves is that with a modest amount of money and the political will to do something, it's possible to make a real difference. But specifically on the question asked, on the latest SHAP funding, we did submit a bid for Chess for an extension of a site to provide an additional 15 units for single people. And we are absolutely delighted to have heard very recently that this has been approved, with Chess being allocated 1.5 million capital funding and 1.8 million revenue funding. Any scheme, so that's, I think, real cause for celebration. Any scheme funded through this programme has to be completed by March 2025. At the moment, there are no other suitable sites in Chelmsford, and DULOC will not allocate any grants for speculative proposals. But if we do identify any other sites, then we'll try and secure funding for that. Thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Sullivan.
Yes, thank you. I'm encouraged to hear the report from Councillor Foster, and I think members of whatever political party care very much to get the rough sleepers off our streets. Just one quick follow-up question. The National Rough Sleeper Strategy in 2018 seeks to eliminate the need for anyone to be street homeless by 2027. But I notice on the Council's website, the Rough Sleeper Strategy was last published in 2019, and there seems to be no plans to update it. So my initial further question was, are there plans to update the strategy that's published on the website? And also, what's the most recent count of rough sleepers? Because that information is not available either. Thank you.
Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. Obviously, the strategy does need to be updated. We haven't got a date set for that to be done, but you're quite right, it does need to be updated. And I don't have at my fingertips, I'm not sure anybody else does, Stephen might, the current numbers.
I think I'm right in saying that it's only recently been completed, and therefore it hasn't, and then we have to send the data in. We don't get to use that data ourselves. We have to report it to DLUC, and then they publish the nationwide paper, and it was only a couple of weeks ago.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, at the Homeless Forum, it said that although the numbers have been counted, they're embargoed until February when the DULUX allows publication. But some people know what they are, I don't, but that's the situation. And that happens every year. You count them in, say, about November, and it's counted in a different way this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item 7, reports from the Cabinet. Agenda item 7.1. The first two reports under item 7 are from the Cabinet on the 14th of November and will be introduced by Councillor Robinson. The first on the proposed amendments to the Constitution. Councillor Robinson, please.
Yes, thank you very much. This has gone through the working group, the Governance Committee, the Cabinet, and now comes to full council, so I think it's had a jolly good airing. And it's a couple of relatively straightforward amendments. Councillor Clark asked a very fair question to clarify voting procedure, and as the Mayor said in opening the meeting, what we're putting into the Constitution will just clarify that it is possible to vote by a show of hands or by assent or a recorded vote, and we're just writing that into the Constitution, and everybody seemed happy with that. So that's and the other change is just to allow the Legal and Democratic Services Manager to make relatively minor changes to the Constitution. For example, update the membership of panels and stuff like that, things which change but aren't procedural really, and that any minor changes will be subject to the consultation with the Chair of the Governance Committee. So that's what's proposed. I hope everyone's agreed.
Does anyone second the motion? Seconded. Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak? Okay. The motion is to approve the recommendations in the report. Would those in favour please show hands? Those against? Any abstentions? The motion to approve the recommendation is agreed. Agenda item 7.2. The next item is on the Treasury Management Mid-Year Review. Councillor Robinson, please.
Yes, this again is a relatively standard and straightforward report. The Treasury Management Strategy is about how we manage our savings and investments, and this has been through the Treasury Management Investment Subcommittee, came to Cabinet and now comes to you for endorsement. There are no breaches of the strategy during this year. We have, because of higher interest rates, we have actually had higher interest received. That's helped cover some of the other costs, like the rising cost of homelessness. So we've been able to balance one against the other. And we don't borrow externally. We borrow internally by moving money from one savings account to another account. No changes are being made at the time to the strategy, and therefore I hope Council will adopt the report.
Thank you. Have I a seconder? Seconded, Madam. Thank you. Has anyone got any comments? Okay. Are the recommendations in the report agreed? Lovely. Item 8, reports from the Leader of the Council. Item 8.1 is a report from the panel set up to review of members' allowance scheme. Councillor Robinson will introduce it.
Yes, indeed, this is something that happens every 4 years after an election. The independent panel meets. Nearly 2/3 of the members of the council responded to the survey that was sent out in advance of the panel meeting. All those comments were taken into account by the panel, and essentially the panel aren't proposing any changes to our scheme other than one relatively minor proposal that an allowance be made to each independent person on the Audit and Risk Committee in the same way that independent members of the Governance Committee receive a small allowance. That's the only substantive change that is proposed. Otherwise, everything is recommended to carry on as it has been over the last 4 years. So I and the Cabinet had no comments to make on this report, and I hope that the Council will accept it.
Thank you. Have I a seconder? Second. Thank you. Any comments? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just looking at the percentage breakdown of the allocations, is there a calculation that you can provide us that shows you how you make the differentiation between roles and posts? The example I'd like to give you is you've got Vice Chair 12.5% of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, while it's 16.5% for the Vice Chair of Planning. And there are 3 roles that are given 5%, and that's Chair of Audit and Risk, Chair of Governance and Committee, and the leader of the largest minority political group. And my question on that is how do you differentiate between the value of those chairs? Is there actually a calculation behind it, or is it just random? Thank you.
Councillor Robinson.
No, it's not random. There was an assessment done by the panel, and indeed, you may remember 4 years ago we had a bit of a longer discussion about sort of the workload, and initially the panel was making a recommendation that all the chairs should have the same allowance, but we decided 4 years ago that actually some chairs have a much higher workload than others, and that's why there is a difference between some of the different chairs. It's always been the case that the whole scheme is based around setting the Leader of the Council's allowance, and then everything else is a percentage of that. And so it all flows through, really. It's up to any member of this council to make those comments, if they wish, to the independent panel at the appropriate time, for them to be taken into account when they make their recommendations, because it's their recommendations that we're adopting, not actually anything that the council has done. It's an independent panel to carry out the review, and we're adopting their report.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Hyland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the answer to my question, the calculation is the one that you can share with us?
The calculation was carried out by the panel, as I said, based on evidence given to the panel primarily 4 years ago rather than in this review, as to the differing workload between the different. And so if you have a view, now is not the time to put it. The time to put it was to the panel, so that they could have taken your views into account in coming up with these recommendations.
Councillor Hyland.
So my question is...
Sorry, you can't keep coming back, Councillor Hyland. Thank you. Is the Council happy to accept the recommendations made by Councillor Robinson? Thank you. Okay, agenda item 8.2. Item 8.2 is for the Council to agree recent change to the committee memberships, which Councillor Robinson will present.
Yes, following Councillor Taylor leaving the Conservative group proposed to replace him with Councillor Wilson on overview and scrutiny of Council of the group. Second.
Thank you. Is the change in the report agreed? Thank you. Agenda item 8.3. The next report from the Leader is on the Council's new key priorities set out in the document, Our Chelmsford, Our Plan. Councillor Robinson, again, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
fine.
4 years ago, we adopted our Chelmsford plan, which was setting out this administration's vision for the 4 years essentially sort of after the election this year. We set out then our ambition to make Chelmsford a greener, fairer and better connected place, and we have sought to work towards that objective over the last 4 years. We have revised this plan slightly. We clarified it under those 3 headings, and each of those headings has 3 strategic priorities. I discussed it with the Overview and Scrutiny Committee and with the Policy Board, and a couple of changes have been made as a result. And so we are presenting this to Council for approval this evening. Obviously, sitting behind this plan is a much longer list of actions which are for each department to carry out. So that is something that's work in progress that flows through from adopting this policy tonight. Under a fairer Chelmsford, Councillor Foster was just relating to reporting on some of our housing achievements and how proud we are to have made real progress on reducing rough sleeping in the city, for example. But that's only the tip of the iceberg. We have a massive housing crisis, and so under a fairer Chelmsford, we need to tackle the housing crisis. We need to build more genuinely affordable homes. We need to encourage a wider range of jobs so that people can afford those homes, and we need sustainable development to create greener communities, so we don't just build houses but we create communities. A key part of greener Chelmsford, of course, is reducing the council's carbon footprint and the wider district, and that is our ambition, and we are well on the way, for example, to planting 1 tree for every resident, and we now have vegetable oil instead of diesel in the council bin lorries and other things like that, designed to make the council itself carbon neutral by 2030-31. We want to improve our green spaces and biodiversity, and we are going to put into the local plan a higher target for biodiversity net gain. And we want to enhance all our other public spaces and waterways so that we create a genuinely greener, sustainable community. And the more connected community is about improving chances to live healthier lives. And a key aspect of the health and wellbeing strategy that we've been working on over the last few years, reducing social isolation. Little did we know 4 years ago when we adopted this plan how higher up the agenda that has risen as a result of COVID. We want to and will encourage a network of community facilities across our diverse city. And we want to celebrate Chelmsford's culturally ambitious place and provide opportunities for people to engage in their communities, villages and towns around our district. So that is our Chelmsford plan, that over the next 4 years and more, we will continue to strive to create a greener, fairer and more connected community. And I hope that Council will endorse the plan.
Thank you. Have I a seconder? Thank you. Yes. Councillor Jeeves.
Chelmsford R Plan specifically states that it aims to provide attractive, high-quality green areas and public places that are clean, safe and easily accessible to all, straight from the document. It goes on to talk about expanding the leisure and recreational potential of public green areas, rivers and waterways. The feedback from our residents is that current blanket and intractable attitude to improving biodiversity is actually excluding areas previously used for recreational use and reducing accessibility to all. It has created hazard in terms of ticks, vermin and rubbish. Please will the Council allow a more balanced response to its residents' appeals to cut grass and improve the maintenance of areas in their communities so that they can be enjoyed by everyone.
Councillor Moore.
Thank you for your comment, Councillor Jeeves. With regard to the grassland policy, which I think is the one you're referring to, the whole idea of this is to manage spaces in balance with amenities that currently exist. And if residents are using those spaces, they are assessed accordingly by our parks team every year to ensure that there is a balance. So in certain areas, you will have swathes of wilder grassland, wildflower planting, and woodland, but in balance with the access that everyone should have to those spaces. So I suggest that if ward councillors wish to discuss this, that from an operational perspective, they go to the relevant parks department and ask them to reassess the sites. What we have to do is to connect islands that we have at the moment with each other in order to reach the outcome that we need, which is a more biodiverse, a richer and more sustainable habitat. But again, in balance with people who have to live and travel through those spaces. So if you look at our policy documents, you will see that they have to be applied accordingly. I'm happy with the policy as it stands. It is robust, and ward councillors and residents have the right to ask questions and work with us as a council in order that we can achieve the balance that you suggest may be missing at the moment. So I direct you to please contact the officers, and we will obviously resume our talks if you wish to raise it again at another meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Moore.
So, Councillor Moore, from that, I take it that there isn't a blanket, you refuse any approach by residents to make changes?
Thank you. Councillor Moore, can we...
No more?
No. We'll move on. It's not question time, so it's just discussing.
Okay.
So
we'll take this outside.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yes, Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I mean, this document contains some admirable and very desirable objectives, but many of these objectives require effective investment and good management of projects. Is there not a problem with this administration being able to achieve this? For example, over 12 months ago, the Council set up a task and finish group to examine and report on the management of the project to make improvements to the theatre. This group has been unable to make progress in this task because of requested delays by the Liberal Democratic administration. The fact that there is some work to be completed is not an adequate reason for this delay. Is not the real reason is that this administration wants to defer or prevent publication of its poor management of the project and the misleading information given to the Council for as long as possible.
Councillor Robinson. It's not question time. No. Okay. Yes. Thank you.
As the Equality and Diversity Champion, I strongly support our commitment to creating a more connected place. I believe we should be encouraging opportunities that empower individuals from diverse backgrounds to tackle health disparities. I strongly believe that Chelmsford's vibrant community facilities and the events that we hold serve as catalysts for fostering socially connected lifestyles. And by standing behind this plan, we don't just endorse inclusivity, but also affirm our dedication to build resilient communities where every individual, regardless of their background, can thrive together and foster a more equitable and supportive environment for everyone. And with that in mind, I am pleased to support this plan.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson, would you like to? Oh, sorry, Councillor Goldman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Of course, I am very supportive of our Chelmsford, our plan. In its second incarnation, of course, I'm part of the administration. It would be a bit strange if I wasn't. But I wanted to just draw attention to one particular aspect of it. There's some great stuff in there, but I wanted to talk in particular about the ambition to be a culturally diverse city. and the excellent work that has been done so far in starting to achieve that, but the excellent work that's coming forward as well, working in partnership with lots of other organisations. There's something called Ignite Chelmsford, which has been incredibly successful at getting grassroots cultural creatives to join together and work together and inspire each other. And that's really joining together the community. And that is one of the aims of culture, is to join together the community. It's not just about paintings and music. It's about bringing the community together. And moving forward, we want to increase that ambition to be a culturally more diverse place, and a place that is recognised for the culture that we have within Chelmsford, something that has been a bit lacking in the past. So I'm particularly proud to be endorsing this, our Chelmsford, our plan. Culture has a huge role to play in the health of its residents, both from a physical point of view and from a mental health point of view as well. And I'm really pleased to be endorsing this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson, did you want to speak? Yeah, no, there's nobody else wants to speak.
So, yes, Councillor Sisson, you're absolutely right. We operate in a very difficult financial context. You won't be surprised if I remind you that your government has not made that any better. It is a really difficult time for every local council of every political colour, because of the rise in interest rates a year ago, because of rampant inflation, because central government has cut funding to every council, not irrespective of party. Every council has had its funding cut. For example, in 2009-10, this council received over £11 million in revenue support grant. Now we get zero in revenue support grant, although we do get some other grants of about £3.5 million a year. But we've had to make up, some of it obviously under your administration and some of it under ours. We have had to find alternative income sources to make up for the ongoing cuts in funding from central government. So yes, the context for this is a very difficult one, but we have presented balanced budgets 4 times and will do so again in next February, and we will continue to do what we've set out in our Chelmsford Our plan. Specifically on the task and finish group of the theatre, we set it up. We wanted to set it up. We're very proud of our investment, and we're very proud of the fact that it's not over budget. But it hasn't, the final contract figure has not been signed off, but we are anxious to get on with the task and finish group as soon as we possibly can, because it's been a fantastic investment in the culture of our city. We've had record box offices since the reopening on the 15th of January, and if you haven't yet got your tickets to the pantomime, I would urge you to do so, because they've almost all sold out. It's a fantastic evening or afternoon, and I would encourage you to take your friends, family and relatives to see a fantastic event. Plus the cafe, go and have your tea on cakes or whatever, Monday to Saturday, which is also generating revenue for the council. So we're very proud of what we've done in the theatre, and we're very happy for that to be considered by the task and finish group as soon as possible. So summing up, thank you, Councillor Ditcham, for your comments. We do have a growing and more diverse community, and it's really important that we recognise that, and that everything that we do responds to that challenge. Councillor Goldman referred to Ignite the Cultural Strategy. That is something else which we're really proud of, which is putting Chelmsford on the map, attracting more investment and attracting more visitors to Chelmsford, and expanding the range of facilities that we offer. So thank you for everyone for their comments, and I hope Council will endorse our Chelmsford Our plan as we create a greener, fairer and more connected city.
Thank you. The motion is to approve the recommendations in the report. Would those in favour please show their hands? Thank you. Are there any against? Any abstentions? The motion to approve the recommendation is agreed. Agenda item 9, the notice of motion. The next item on the agenda is a notice of motion on the increased use of vaping products. It will be moved by Councillor Dan Clark and seconded by Councillor Anne Davidson. Councillor Clark, please.
Thank you, Madam
Madam Mayor and members, today I stand before you to address a matter of utmost importance, one that directly impacts our community's well-being and environment. The reason for this motion is that disposable vapes have now become a major environmental and health issue, with excessive amounts going to landfill and today's children being enticed into addiction. Before I delve into the issue at hand, I would like to express my thanks to all the officers and councillor colleagues for their brilliant help and collaboration in putting this motion together. So first, let's look at the health impacts. Addiction to nicotine can be a serious problem at any stage of someone's life. I smoked cigarettes for 9 years and I can understand firsthand how challenging it is to quit. Growing up in a household where one of my parents and my brother smoked and working in a pub during a time when people could smoke inside, I was familiar with the impact of addiction, and today's youngsters face similar challenges. Often trying vapes due to peer pressure or as a perceived fashionable trend. Addiction can take over how you think, influence how you structure your days, and dictate how you spend your money. I've been shocked to discover that some illegal vapes contain dangerous levels of heavy metals and other harmful chemicals, sometimes with nicotine concentrations higher than the legal limits. And imagine my alarm when in a local shop I walked past a cardboard stand full of vapes in an aisle, fully stocked within arm's reach of anyone who can touch them. The advice from NHS is that while vaping is better for you than smoking, if you've never smoked, then you should not vape. And let us not forget, nicotine is a stimulant, and ingesting it causes your heart rate to increase, putting extra strain on your cardiovascular system, and currently, no studies can tell us the long-term effects. And vaping has also been found to cause in the short term sickness, shortness of breath, irritation in mouth and throat, and chest pains. And vapes, though not explicitly marketed to children, employ enticing strategies with brightly coloured boxes and flavours like bubblegum, popcorn and watermelon. A government news article published in May points out that businesses are targeting children, evidenced by the surge in teenage usage and promotion of cheap, colourful products. There is concerning practice of providing free samples, exploiting a legal loophole, which remains a significant challenge, And as an aside, whilst writing this, I found a website with 92 flavours to order. This to me is the crux of why it is so appealing to the younger generations and why we are failing them by letting this persist. And let's not forget the environmental impact. A recent study by Material Focus strikingly states single-use vapes are a strong contender for being the most environmentally wasteful, damaging and dangerous consumer product ever made. This isn't hyperbole. It states that 5 million vapes are being discarded weekly, equating to a staggering 8 vapes per second in the UK alone. The amount of lithium in the batteries could be used for 5,000 electric vehicles, which could help reduce pollution typical of traffic on the roads in Britain. The study estimates that the disposal of these vapes could cost us £200 million, and this is a financial burden that no council should have to afford, especially with brands that are virtually impossible to recycle, and damaged batteries pose severe risks, potentially leading to fires in bin lorries and recycling centres, risking harm to the people who staff them. On a recent litter pick with the brilliant Chelmsford litter wombles, I found numerous vapes discarded, sometimes already broken into pieces. I found 11 vapes along paths, in long grass and under bushes, and this was in the space of 2 hours, and statistically this will only get worse. When looking at this though, I do have to acknowledge the benefits. As I previously stated, legal vaping products are better for individuals than smoking if they already smoke, as they contain far fewer harmful chemicals. Rechargeable devices are a valuable tool in smoking cessation, with individuals twice as likely to quit successfully. And in 2017 alone, vaping played a significant role in helping between 50 to 70,000 individuals quit smoking, an achievement in the fight against cancer. But at no point should these have to represent a significant challenge to the health of the youngsters and the environment as well. In conclusion, this motion stands as a call to action, urging us to address the dual challenges of environmental sustainability and the well-being of our youth. And I implore each of you to consider the gravity of these issues and lend your support to this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Davidson, I understand you want to second and speak on this motion. You have 5 minutes. Thank you.
It won't take me 5 minutes. I second this motion because I feel very strongly about 2 particular aspects of it. Firstly, the health impacts, and Councillor Clark has gone into a lot of those. They're too readily available to under 18s. The contents are unregulated, they often contain harmful substances, and we know that the packaging and the flavours appeal to young people. It's targeted at them. What we don't know is what the long-term effects will be. Their lungs and brains are still developing. It could lead to addiction. But what we do know is that school-aged children have been admitted to hospital with collapsed lungs as a result of vaping. The second reason, really, that I back this is the impacts on education. Having been a secondary school teacher myself, I remember the days of finding people in the toilets smoking. Now it's vaping. And I've spoken to several teachers about this. It is a major problem, mostly in secondary, but also, sadly, in some primary schools. So the single-use vapes are small, they're easy to put in pockets, they go undetected. Teachers have told me about the extra work that's been caused. They're already overstretched. They spend their break times, their lunch times, patrolling toilets and other areas to track down pupils who are vaping. But then there's the following up with parents. That takes time that they would be better spent doing extra planning or helping pupils who are struggling. And no doubt schools are responsible for educating the pupils on the dangers of these vaping products as well. Whilst I realise the City Council has limited powers, I would like to see us put pressure on central government to bring in greater regulation of vaping products and a ban put on the sale of single-use vapes. We should also do what we can at the City Council, including not selling vaping products on our sites. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Yes, Councillor Thorpe-Patts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to thank Councillor Clark for bringing this motion to Council and also for sharing some of his personal story. The Conservative group is equally concerned about the increase in shops illegally selling vaping products to youngsters and the general increase in children using these products. We're sympathetic to the ideas and calls for action expressed in the motion, and we will be voting for the motion this evening. I'm reminded of the Prime Minister's recent historic proposals to create the first smoke-free generation by ending cigarette sales to those born after the 1st of January 2009 and cracking down on youth vaping. This has been the most significant public health intervention in a generation and is set to save tens of thousands of lives and save the NHS billions of pounds. Turning specifically to policies on vaping, I'm sure Councillor Clark would agree that there is a need to strike a balance. We must, of course, clamp down on vapes being promoted to children, whilst ensuring adults who want to quit smoking remain supported and not pushed back into smoking, which, as he acknowledges, is far more harmful. The NHS advice site notes that vapes can help you quit smoking and quotes a 2021 review which found that people who used vapes to quit smoking can be twice as likely to succeed as those who used other nicotine replacement products. The government is currently consulting on proposals to keep vapes out of sight from children and away from products that appeal to them, such as sweets, alongside restrictions on the flavours and descriptions of vapes so that vape flavours are not targeted at children. The consultation also covers proposals to regulate vape packaging and product presentation, ensuring that neither the device nor its packaging is targeted to children, as well as proposals to restrict the sale of disposable vapes. The consultation ends at midnight tonight, and I'd encourage all councillors to share their views. In addition, the government is closing legal loopholes which will allow children to get samples and buy non-nicotine vapes. Enforcement activity is also being strengthened with an investment of 30 million to support agencies such as local trading standards, HMRC and Border Force to take action to stop underage sales and tackle the import of illicit tobacco and vaping products. I'm afraid the recent government announcements and the current consultation mean that the motion before us this evening is largely redundant. I'd also point out that the motion calls for various actions which are entirely out of this council's remit. In fact, there's only one practical point over which this council has authority: the commitment not to allow sale of vaping products in council-run premises. I made inquiries as to what impact this commitment would have and was told that no vaping products are currently sold from council-run premises. What about premises that the council owns but doesn't run? I'm particularly thinking of High Chelmsford and Chelmsford Market. This motion doesn't seem to apply to those examples. Why not? The motion would surely have more teeth if it covered council-owned as well as council-run premises. So to conclude, we on this side are sympathetic to the motion's central thrust and share the concerns around increased use of vaping products by children and illegal sales, but this motion has largely been surpassed by recent events. We will support the motion this evening, but I'd encourage engagement with the current consultation and perhaps writing to Chelmsford's brilliant MP, Vicky Ford, as that is where the real opportunity to influence government policy lies. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Goldman.
Madam Mayor, how very clever of you to anticipate my hand being raised. Wow. I mean, okay. Councillor Thorpe Apps has considerably more faith in his government actually following through on the promises they make than I would say we probably have on this side of the chamber. So unfortunately, things that haven't yet come to pass can't be counted on for this government to deliver. So I think it is important that we still do deliver the things that are within our gift. I'm slightly confused when he says that that there are things that are outside this council's remit. It essentially calls for several things, such as not allowing the sale of vaping products in Chelmsford City Council run premises. That's within our gift. We call for a ban on the sale of the use of vaping products in the UK. It is within our gift to call for those things. It is within our gift to call for a ban on free samples of vaping products. It is within our gift to call for a mandatory age of sale signage on vaping products. It's within our gift to call for vaping products to be in plain packaging, and it is within our gift to instruct the Chief Executive to write to various ministers of state. So I'm a bit confused when he says it's not within his gift, and I won't bother addressing the sycophancy that he had later in his statement. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hyland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted some clarification, and thank you for Councillor Thorpe picking up on the point about the city-run premises not selling any of these products at this moment in time. I just wanted to clarify, does this motion actually seek the council to unilaterally undertake to change the law on vapes? Whilst I understand some of the virtue signalling within the motion, I'd just like to clarify if we actually have the powers to act in such a way. Thank you. And the other question was about the baseline starting point. If we're starting at 0, we're doing a good job. So where's the baseline that we are going to improve on? Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions before? Oh, no, no. Councillor Pooley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Will you forgive me for staying seated?
Yes, of course.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you for the motion. I just wanted to make one additional point to those that have been made, and to underline how key education is in raising the profile of the dangers of these products within schools and colleges. If one casts one, I mean, I'm an addict or a recovering addict, as people on the council well know, and my route into excessive alcohol was driven initially by excessive nicotine behind school doors and all the rest of it. And so, and my personal experience in trying to grapple with that, and then with helping others to grapple with that as time went by in Helping Hands Essex, just underlined that the key point at which one can intervene most effectively to relieve the stresses and the dangers of addiction is as early as possible. Now, that reached a high point with smoking when there was massive government advertising about the dangers of advertising, alongside some limited legislation to limit freedoms. But education was the key, and the NHS provision of help was the key. So I think that side by side with the things that we're calling for, we look forward to a further increase in educational sessions being undertaken within schools, as they have been for some time around nicotine and alcohol, as the scientific facts around vaping begin to gather momentum and gather credibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Whitehead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As Councillor Thorpe said earlier on, we entirely support this. I mean, nobody is more anti-smoking than I, and we're entirely happy. What actually he was saying is, can we strengthen it, not to reduce it? And Councillor Goldman goes on about what the government's going to do. We don't care what the government's going to do. It's what we're doing here tonight. That's important. And there is a vaping shop in Chelmsford. I mean, can we ban it or not? I don't know. And perhaps Councillor Clark, tell us the answer to that question, because if it's a council-run premises, we're the freeholders of it, but it has a lease. I suspect we're not a council-run premises. But nonetheless, if the market is ours, yeah. Yeah, I say I'm not against the idea, none of us are against the idea of banning it. I ban a whole thing completely. But we need to be cautious, but if we can strengthen it, all we're saying is, if you can strengthen it, we'd be even happier with it than it is now. Nothing more than that. Thank you.
Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In response to the questions regarding the market, which it is obviously run by the City Council, and we have a trading policy in place. Should the motion this evening be approved, as Cabinet Member for within my portfolio, we will review the trading policy and we will make the exemptions as necessary should this come to pass for those independent traders who currently stock. I think we have one who currently stocks non-disposable vapes. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson.
Yeah, just to add to what Councillor Moore said, I mean, it's absolutely within our remit because we collect the rubbish and we have both an environmental health and a public health duty. And so absolutely, this is very much within our remit. We talked earlier about health and well-being of our district, so it's absolutely, all of this is within our remit. But we're not trying to, this isn't trying to change the law, it's just saying that we won't sell these products in premises that we run. We are asking the government to change the law, but we're not holding our breath, as Councillor Goldman says. But we will write to the Minister. And Councillor Clark has worked with officers to come up with a proposal which they feel is something that we can endorse. So I hope that all of Council will.
Thank you. Councillor Clark, did you want to respond to anything at this point?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I mean, yeah, I acknowledge what Councillor Thorpe said about the government bringing in the smoke-free generation. I mean, I do hope it goes through. It would be something that would be good for the health of this country. However, I have noticed or have read that New Zealand have now repealed theirs because they can't afford it. So I'm hoping that in the current financial environment we face that your government will also follow through on that promise and not ban it, not repeal it, sorry, when it actually goes through. And thank you for everyone else's contributions to the debate so far. So.
Thank you. And please indicate by raising your hands whether you agree to the substantive motion. Thank you. Are there any against? The substantive motion is agreed. Oh, sorry, any abstentions? Oh yes, Councillor Deakin, thank you. The substantive motion is agreed, thank you. The next report we need to consider at this meeting contains exempt information and therefore we must formally exclude the public from the meeting. We haven't got any public, have we?
Just need to make sure we stop recording.
Yeah, okay. I therefore move that the public be excluded from the meeting